What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I guess people want me to call this driving tone, so I guess that's what we'll call it. I gotta go to the dentist. I'm on my way to the dentist right now. Just a cleaning. Nothing super crazy. Do me a favor. If you have a guitar question that you want answered, ask it in the comment section of this video right here. And then I will look in this comment section next week and pick one for the next one, which is what we're doing here. This person asked this question last week. Before we get into that, please do me a favor. Check out the website, dylantalkstone.com. You can buy pickups there and loaded pick cards and all kinds of custom stuff you can't get anywhere else, which is pretty neat. And do me a favor and check out patreon.com. I want to thank my Patreon supporters. I'm dropping some stuff over there today that nobody's going to know. I'm giving them some heads up on some stuff. So just make sure you check that out as well. So thanks to all of you who support the channel as well. All right, so the question for today is by Matt Sanders, 5922. What are the fundamental rules you use when designing pickups? I guess there are different quote-unquote rules for single coil humbucker, PAF, but what approach do you use? Also, with your deep experience, what are some of the idiosyncrasies that add flavor to tone that one would only realize after making it a metric S-ton of them? I'm not asking for you to give away all your secrets, but hang on. I'm interested in the art. I really like that question, and I'll tell you why. Because to me, that is not a technical question. To me, that is an art question, which is what all of this stuff is. This is art. Our instruments are an expression of art. And I think that's very cool. They're a tool for art. They're a paintbrush. And while there there are technical differences that make things better or worse to create art. Better, harder, easier. It's just art. What's really interesting about it is, what I find, is that sometimes the tools themselves can become another art. Take, for example, a fountain pen, a pocket knife, which are two things I'm very interested in. For example, a kitchen knife. You know, you go to a very experienced sous chef and his knife may cost thousands of dollars and be made by hand. So recognizing the art in the tool is something that guitar players don't do enough. And enjoy the collecting and enjoying and appreciating of the art of the tool itself, not the art that can be made with the tool, which is also awesome. And then you take the extension of that, then is the art in making the tool, right? So then you start to go like, wait a minute. Wow, there's a lot of skill and time and thought and blood, sweat, and tears involved in creating this tool that then becomes art, its own art. And then that art then is used as a tool to create more art. And I know this gets a little deep for some, I know some of you are feverishly typing away at your keyboards from your mother's basement, saying that it doesn't have anything to do with the tone or whatever, but it should. I'm telling you, if you don't think so, you're wrong. And I'm telling you that you are missing out on, well, I'm not telling you you're wrong. Well, you are, but you can do whatever you want. You're free to do whatever you want, but I will probably not have much to talk to you about when we're hanging out and talking about it over a beer, or whatever drink you choose, because I like all of those aspects and how it leads us to creating the art that is music, and I think it's very cool. So I know that's a little deep, but it's really important. And guitar players as a whole, the majority of you, not me, because I do, and if you think I'm saying I'm better than you, I appreciate this very much, and I really, really love it, and I know Matt Sanders does, and I'm very happy that he asked this question, and I know that there are many of you out there like him, and that's really, 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 really cool, and I love it. So, when I am creating a pickup, what aspects do I look at? So I really care, and I've talked about this a lot. For those of you that are just finding the channel for the first time, I really care about clarity and the ability to do something. So interesting thing about a good instrument, and very good musicians will tell you this, okay? Not the dorks in the comments section, but the very good musicians will tell you, and anybody who uses any kind of tool will tell you, that when they can create their art without thinking about the tool itself as like, it's holding me back, oh, I have to make this adjustment to compensate, etc., etc., then that means that you're free to create, because the tool is not holding you back. So when I first started making pickups, a lot of it had to do with problem solving. I really don't like muddy pickups, so I want clarity. And I want one pickup that will do almost everything in any format. So let's say a P90. I don't care about a low output P90, a high output P90. I don't care about that. I want it to do all the things. I want it to be very clean when I want it clean, and I want it to absolutely shred when I want to use it for that. Within reason for what the limitations of that pickup are, based on its shape and magnets and all that. And that's why we don't have 20 different models of P90s. We only have one. We have a dog ear and a soap bar, but they're the same, just a different mounting. For example, that's a good example of it. Same thing with humbuckers. Now, humbuckers you can get a little more adventurous, because there's a lot of shaping that can be done with magnets and wind counts between bobbins and blah, 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 blah. But my main concern is to make a dynamically rich pickup that has a lot of clarity and that allows you to have a very wide palette of things to do. I don't want it to be muddy, because that just cuts off a whole thing that you can't do anything with it. It's just gone. Because a muddy pickup is actually high and high mid frequencies just chopped off. So therefore you have this, you have this much of your sound from here to here. And if you just cut this much off, and now you just can't do that anymore. And people will say, well, you just use an EQ pedal and you put it back in. But the thing is if the pickup doesn't make the sound in the first place, it will not make the sound with an EQ pedal. When you use an EQ pedal or an EQ on your amp to try to put back in a frequency that does not exist because the pickup never made it in the first place, you create noise. And so so what I'm saying is, in that situation, you are trying to compensate for something. All of a sudden, the tool isn't doing what you want it to do, and now as an artist, you are moving things around and trying to compensate for a weakness in a tool. I want to take that weakness away. I just don't want there to be any weaknesses. That's what I care about. I want it to be, when you put it in the guitar and you slam your first chord, you go, oh dang, yeah, that's awesome. And then you just start to explore, right? You just start to explore. You just put the pickup in the guitar and you just start exploring, because you're like, oh wow, what are all the things I could do with this? As opposed to, let's take for example, the neck pickup on a classic vibe telly. Super muddy, really flat, and you play it and it's like, yeah, this is fun, but it's not very long before you start going, man, I wish it was like, first of all, it needs more clarity. And it just really gets lost when I'm playing with somebody else. And you just start to kind of notice these weaknesses. And you start to have to mess around and figure out what you're going to do to compensate for them. And you might not notice it right away, right? I encourage everybody to play every guitar that they ever buy for a while before they start modifying it. Like if you buy a guitar today, play it for a week or two before you call me and you want pickups. It does two things. One, it makes sure that you think you know that you really want that thing, right? And two, it identifies for you, for sure, the problem or thing that you're trying to solve. You're not just buying a part to buy a part, but you're actually trying to solve that problem. So then me and you are of the same mind, because I'm trying to solve that problem and you're like, oh, I do have that problem, I need to solve it, right? Or whatever it is. Like, that's what I care about. So a few technical things about this, without giving too many things away, is I really care about the tension of the wire that goes on the magnet, or that goes on the bobbin. I really care about magnet quality. Cheap magnets and cheap pickups are cheap, and there's a reason for it, and you can hear the difference. And so magnet quality is important. I've gone through lots of magnet suppliers, probably, well, there aren't very many in the world, but I've gone through them, and I've got somebody picked out that I use. And, you know, honestly, no matter what the economic situation is in the world, I have to buy it from this place because they sound the best. And, you know, that determines what our pickups cost, because they're freaking expensive right now. But it doesn't matter, because it's what it needs. That's what they need. And then I would say, so tension of the wire, and quality of components is a big thing. Cheap wire and cheap magnets can kill a pickup. Without giving out too many secrets, I would say tension's a big one. We monitor it down to the like a 3 or 4 gram difference, and I can either do that by hand or with a machine. I'll just brag to you that after doing 15,000 of these things, I'm good enough to do that. What else? I would say a lot of people will argue one way or another about like scatter winding and all that kind of stuff. So I don't really get into that conversation, but we do have a method about it, because one of the main things that I care about when it comes to designing a pickup is capacitance. A lot of people don't talk about that. It's not a measurement that you'll see. It's not a measurement that you'll see in many spec sheets, but it is important. So capacitance is where you have 2 wires laying next to each other, or in this case, hundreds, because it's a coil. And what will happen is, for lack of a better word, the high frequencies will leak into each other. Like, let's say, some of the signal, what's the easiest way to explain it? And this is a very elementary explanation of this, and some jerk will get in the comments and think he's smarter than me, but basically, or try to sound smarter than me. But basically what it is when you have 2 wires laying next to each other in a line, the signal will leak into the other one, right? This wire will leak signal into that one, and that wire will leak signal into that one. It's called capacitive loss. And so to combat that, people will talk about scatter winding, and they will make it crooked a little bit so that it does not do that as much, because the first signal to get lost in any situation really is high frequencies, which is clarity. So there's a couple ways you can mess with that. You can mess with tension, you can mess with scatter winding, but people will argue with you about whether you can actually hear that or not, but it can be measured actually. The effectiveness of scatter winding can be measured, but it's not the only thing in that conversation that matters. That's why I don't really talk about it that much, because there's a few different things that kind of cross over each other. Cross over each other with scatter winding. So I don't really, we scatter wind to this, blah, blah, blah. But, there are things like layers, winds per layer. So when you're going across the coil, like how many, is it how many hundreds of, or whatever, dozens of winds which will that's your traverse rate, right? So lots of lines per layer is going to be a really slow traverse rate, and and less lines per layer will be a faster traverse rate. Like, for example, those are a couple of things. So, and those things, just kind of give you a general idea, will I love this car. I love this car. God, every time I drive this car, I love this car. Those things will affect the capacitance of the pickup, and the capacitance, in my view, really affects my end result that I'm going for as a pickup maker. Yeah, so those are things, and and what I think is neat about that question is, what is the art of it without giving away secrets? That's why it's so cool to explore pickup builders, and not just me. Go look at everybody, like and I don't mean like the small guys that are trying to build pickups for $30 out of their basements. I mean the guys that are actually trying to run good businesses and really trying to contribute to the art. Jason Lawler, Tim McNelly, I don't know. There's a bunch of people I could think of, but that, those guys are really trying to make art out of the tool. I think that's really cool. And I think that instead of just being like, well, how does it contribute to the tone? Is it going to make my tone better? Look at it as an art in itself, and recognizing that your tool is a piece of art. And that feeling of, it's funny. So what do I have in my pocket right now? Okay. This is not so much that. This is a Microtech MSI, or a Microtech Stitch. This is a tool, right? If I got to cut something, it's hardcore and it's a tool and it's made by a cool company and whatever. But I've got other pocket knives, and when I take them out, dude, are you serious? People don't like using like turn signals and going in through outs and stuff like that. It's kind of weird. Person who's going into Chick-fil-A needs to go to Chick-fil-A more often, because they teach you manners when you go to Chick-fil-A. There's a lot of good manners in Chick-fil-A. Sometimes I'll take a pocket knife out of my pocket. Like, let's say I got a Spartan Harsey folder, for example. I got a Medford, where you're like, this thing is a piece of art. Yes, I am going to cut an Amazon box open with it, but I don't really care. Wow, this thing is cool. And it just makes you feel better about the task that you're about to undertake, which is really cool. And I think if your guitar is cool, that will happen. I think if you have a guitar, even if it's a classic vibe telly, and you put some pickups in it or some work in it, and then you do some of that work yourself, you install it yourself, you let's say you buy a wiring kit from us that's hand assembled by us, our pickups are handmade in the United States by me, then you have this like whole craft infused into this instrument. Even if it's a Chinese guitar, it doesn't matter. All of a sudden you've like people talk about mojo and all that, but whatever, it's like you're like, dang, now it's got a cool factor to it that when I pick it up, there's more. It's more than just a machine. It's more than just a blunt instrument, right? It's got some art associated with it, and I think that's really, really, really neat. And I thank you, Matt, for asking that question. And I would encourage any of you who don't think about your instruments like that to start thinking about your instruments like that, because it's really neat. And that's how I look at the world. I look at what is the contribution that person made. I think about it. I've got a John Deere lawnmower, and I was cutting my grass yesterday. Well, trying to. It started raining, and I'm like, I think it was actually made in Kentucky, but we have a John Deere plant right down the street from us, and I'm like, I probably know a guy. In fact, I do actually know a guy who drove the truck that had some of these parts in it. And I don't know, just having that personal connection with whatever you're doing and recognizing the work and the engineering and the art and all the things that go into a thing, instead of just clicking a button on Amazon or Sweetwater or anywhere and it just shows up in 2 days, and if it doesn't show up in 2 days you're mad, and all of a, and it just serves a function and like whatever. Try to find the art and the person and the people in everything that you use. Sometimes it's harder, you know. This camera that I'm using, it's harder to do that, but I think it makes life better. So anyway, there you go. If you have another guitar question, do me a favor, put it in the description of this video or the comment section of this video. I will try to answer it next week. And if you like guitar stuff at all, even if you don't like this video, you might not agree with anything in here. Even if you don't agree with me, you still should subscribe, because we have, I don't know, 2,000 videos or something. There's all kind of cool stuff in there for guitar people. So thanks for hanging out. It is time for me to go in and get my teeth cleaned. I will see you in the next video.